As schools across the country prepare to continue social distance learning, here are 3 best practices for remote learning. Number 1. Develop an equity lens. The digital divide is a great example of how our schooling systems have been inequitable in the past. In 2017, 7 million students did not have internet access at home, and on average, 35% of students ages 6 through 12 living in households with incomes less than $35,000 a year did not have internet access at home, compared to only 6% of students living in households with incomes greater than $75,000 a year. 1 in 5 children report having insufficient materials such as high-speed internet or a reliable computer. On average, Black and brown students are twice as likely to fall behind in school than white students. Recognizing the inequities present in a classroom can provide insights on how to make remote learning more equitable. Some steps for making remote learning more equitable might look like revising implicit shaming policies. Requiring that a student attend class from a quiet space in their home might not be feasible for some students who live in overcrowded households or are found without homes. Thinking equitably, students should be graded on their learning process rather than compliance to policies. After all, students are adapting to a new learning environment, and as previously mentioned, some students lack the access to adapt at the same pace. Number 2. Trauma-informed teaching and learning online. 2 out of 3 students report experiencing at least one traumatic event before the age of 16. Studies have shown that trauma impacts learning. Students may find it difficult to develop relationships with teachers, tend to be hypervigilant, have poor self-regulation, think negatively, and overall have poorer learning outcomes than students who do not have histories of trauma. Here are 7 steps to implementing trauma-informed teaching in the classroom. Step 1. Physical, emotional, and social respect. Acknowledge a student's emotions and experiences, taking into consideration how their individual identities impact them differently and affect their learning. Discuss what your students are feeling by developing open spaces for them to openly discuss their feelings with students in the classroom. Lastly, normalize talking about feelings and reflecting with students, assuring them that feelings such as stress, anxiety, and depression are common emotions to feel and with the proper support can work through. Step 2. Trustworthiness and transparency. Developing trust is a crucial component to relationship building. Developing trustworthiness with students may look like granting some trust to them first, by making them a part of curriculum building or policy implementation. Step 3. Support and connection. Support comes in various forms. Consider connecting students to outside resources that provide additional learning opportunities, food, clothing, shelter, counseling, and more. Step 4. Collaboration and mutuality. Fostering an environment where students trust each other and want to learn requires more collaborative-based projects. Have class members provide input, share power, and make decisions. Facilitate student-led discussions and activities and use student feedback to inform, revise your present and future classes. Step 5. Empowerment, voice, and choice. Building in choices where possible helps students develop autonomy in their classrooms. Allow students to collaborate on revising policies, assignments, and gradings. Step 6. Cultural, historical, and gender contexts. Respect one another's diverse experience and identities. Note that each student might be going through something different. Highlight the intersectionalities of each student and how they play a role in their educational pursuits, keeping in mind a student's gender, sexual orientation, income, family, and race. Step 7. Resilience, growth, and change. Taking a strengths-based approach. Recognize individual and collective strengths in the classroom. Practice compassion by conveying warmth and support in your students. Most importantly, be patient. Remote learning is a new phenomenon that students are only beginning to understand. Lastly, mindfulness. Mindfulness has been found to be effective at developing executive functioning. Executive functioning is responsible for impulse control, emotional control, flexible thinking, working memory, self-monitoring, planning and prioritizing, task initiative, and organization. Set some time each class to help students practice mindfulness. Guide students to take a seat somewhere comfortable. Have them scan their body, paying close attention to how their feet feel against the floor and their body against their chair. Have students take a deep breath and then follow through with slow exhales. Teachers and educators alike, make sure to also take a step back, engage, and breathe. You have been tasked with such an important job. Teachers, educators, heroes, you got this.